Hello, welcome to the Poppycock Podcast. We still don't have an intro, so we need to, a jingle or something, because we've played around with some, but the peacock sound is a little annoying. The other one lacked flavor.
Yeah,
so
we might look at the Fat Rat might run you through some of his stuff, because it's all copyright free, just pull some there, and he often has sort of a jingle type sound to his stuff.
Anyway, before we have two topics on here, one of which is a Fallout theory that I know nothing about that you have, but I was going to tell you a little bit of the sad story of Joe Mangoes, a.k.a. Joe Manganiello. It's hard to say his name. He was Flash Thompson in the Sam Raimi trilogy. He's been in many movies and TV shows since. He's currently starring as a snake bounty hunter in a Disney XD TV series. I don't know what series, but I just saw he was promoting it. But most importantly to me, he's Deathstroke in the Snyderverse. I don't know about any other part of the DC universe. I had heard that he was in roughly 7 different Deathstroke-related projects that all got canceled over the last 4 years. But now there's a chance that we're going to get him again. Because I don't think we're going to see Ben Affleck as Batman ever again. Unless they literally just use a stunt double as Batman the whole time. And just do like Iron Man, where they would put Robert Downey Jr. in like chest pads and like a helmet and walk around, and then CG everything else would just do up close shots. Mm-hmm. I feel like you could sell Ben on only having to put the cowl on and like a Chip and Dale style top, and they're like, we'll CG the rest and use stunt doubles. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. Because the Batman, which has Robert Pattinson, was originally a Ben Affleck written, directed, and starring movie, which is a lot for one guy to do. So I have new information now from a couple of Vanity Fair articles about what Joe's projects were. He was going to be the antagonist for 2 different versions of the Suicide Squad 2, or the Suicide Squad, as I like to call it. And he was going to specifically be squaring off against Will Smith's Deadshot. And he only filmed a very short cameo, so what we saw is exactly what he filmed on the yacht in the end of Justice League, but it wasn't supposed to set up we should have our league of our own. They were talking about something else, and he was going to take a job hunting Batman. Oh, Miko. Hang on, we're going to let a dog in who's being whiny. Well, that was chaotic for a second. But anyway, the end part of Justice League, they didn't refilm any of his stuff. They just redid Jesse Eisenberg's side of things to set up something else. He was originally just going to tease a character who was then going to show up. Yes, Miko. In the Batman as the primary antagonist, sort of we've covered it, I believe, briefly in other episodes, but I know that we've covered it in either a previous podcast episode or in an article on our website, the Poppycock Podcast. And, so that had a really interesting, cool plot, and then he was supposed to be in the Suicide Squad, and then he was supposed to eventually get potentially a spin-off all about his own. Every single one of these was shut down. And then Zack Snyder was like, hey, we're probably not going to get to make those movies we wanted. Do you want to come film some new apocalypse things, like End of the World? So that Jared Leto, with like, who looks spooky as the Joker for Justice League is a reshoot. Because they're like, look, we never got to do these things, and now we won't. So we're just going to put them in like a nightmare sequence. Yeah. And Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke, his armor was being flown over from London. They repainted it, and he shaved his head because he's in the apocalypse, and his whole character is supposed to be like, I'm supposed to die in this battle, and him and Ben Affleck's Batman have struck up an accord to work together, and he has some type of symbol that has been confirmed by Joe to be a reference to the League of Shadows or Assassins or whatever you want to call it on his blade. I don't know if that's the case in the non-Nightmare version, but apparently the Snyder Cut is going to end on a cliffhanger because it was originally supposed to set up 2 more movies, one of which was primarily set in the dark apocalypse world where everything goes wrong. Personally, I think there's a chance we could either see that as something that HBO greenlights in the future, or alternatively, Joe has said that there's a pretty good chance that his character, Miko, that is a loud hobby you have. But we could see him in the future just carrying on that character in like a solo story, because he's had years to think about what he wanted to do. Of course, he's pretty legendary in the D&D community. If you put that much thought into a fictional character that is now canon, oh my god, that dog has some... wiener dogs are not meant to jump that high. But I could very much see that being worked into a future something or another.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just... I think it's interesting because you can hear by the way he talks about it that there's some real heartbreak and like constantly being told you're going to be this iconic hero and then not being that iconic hero.
Yeah.
Can you have a quieter hobby? But anyway, I don't know how much you care about any of that. I'm just a pretty big fan of Joe Mango's work.
Yeah, I'm a fan of...
And Deathstroke.
A fan of his work specifically from D&D stuff. That's most of what I do on Reddit is either Fallout or D&D related.
Yeah, Archon the Cruel.
Yeah.
He famously created.
Yeah, and then just now in the Avernus, Descent into Avernus.
Yeah, where he's a canon NPC character.
Yeah, you can make either deals with him or you can... Because basically if you want to make a deal with his god, you have to go through him.
We should do a campaign of that. I would like to interact with Archon the Cruel. It's the closest I'll ever get to hanging out with Joe Manganiello, who, by the way, not an official plug, but Liquid Death water, genuinely pretty great water. Like I shotgun those almost. Like they're so good.
It's just pure water, but it's in aluminum cans and it's
recyclable.
That's why it's called Liquid Death, because it's death to plastic.
And I don't know about you, but there are some waters that I think taste good cold, but not warm, and vice versa. Like, there's just... I'm weird that way. But, my God, your dog makes a lot of prison shivs. You know that?
Why are you throwing away his rib?
Because he has, 13 ribs he's chewing on.
That's true.
He looks like he's trying to prep for a prison riot. He's sharpening the ends. Look like a murder victim he just chewed up. Anyway... What I was trying to say is just that's literally the only water I've ever had where I'm like, this tastes good, warm, or you son of a whore.
He brought a squeaky toy back over here and starts squeaking. Okay.
Why didn't I use you for the Joker laugh in our cold night in Gotham? Yes, it's very funny.
Just the look of defeat in your eyes.
I can't hit a dog. But if he was a person, I'd kick him.
Yeah, okay. So...
But yeah, so
it's tragic.
Liquid Death. Shockingly good. Snyder Cut. At least I'm going to see more Joe Mangos. Who, by the way, in case you don't know, we call him Joe Mangos because his name is a complicated cacophony of consonants. This dog is going to be the death of me.
He's trying to get... I put his bone out of reach and he's trying to find a way to parkour his way up to it.
Anyway... He's got good chest definition for a wiener dog.
Yeah.
So that's that terrier in him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you had Fallout 4. We're going to segue over to your thing. I needed to get that out of my system because that's such a sad story to hear. He's such a weirdly fit nerd. He and Sam Witwer are people who have no right being that nerdy and looking that good. Yeah,
I think Sam Witwer said, he's just the classic, pasty nerd in his basement. Difference is that he got hot for some reason.
He's a good-looking dude.
That's the only difference. In fact, that man not only knows a lot about Battlestar Galactica, but he was in it, and he has a model of, I think it's the Star Trek Discovery, or not Discovery,
Voyager?
I don't think it was Voyager.
I thought he said that his favorite captain was Janeway.
Possible. I just know he has a scale model of one of the ships on his wall. He's done live stream stuff.
Yeah, again, it's... Yeah. Insane. He also is responsible for a D&D art book and is half of the characters in Star Wars video games and stuff. He made the art book with his brother, whose name escapes me, the other Witwer. So it's very cool. If I was famous, I would do stuff with you, and I hope vice versa. You'd be like, I'm a famous porn star, but sometimes I shoot short films with my brother, who's an artiste.
I was really worried. It's if we got famous, we'd work with each other. Hey, I'm a famous porn star. I was really worried.
You would segue your fame, and that's how I always thought. If I ever had fame, I would segue it into bringing more attention to my passions and the passions of my friends and family.
All right, so
I'm a sharer.
So to my Fallout
4.
Yeah.
And it is Fallout 4 related.
Yes. Partially Fallout 3. Just because it's kind of...
I played that less, even though it has Liam Neeson. I was, as a lot of people are, I was a New Vegas kind of guy.
Yeah. That's a popular opinion. A lot of people say it's better than 3, but there's a wonderful video by the YouTube channel Many a True Nerd that breaks down why both are, people say, oh, Fallout New Vegas, it gave you morally ambiguous choices. And you're like, really? What about, the ability to blow up a town to get, money early on when money is really tight? Or the ability to, murder or rob someone who's just trying to start their life over so that you can get information to meet your dad.
I think...
Like, and he breaks down piece by piece why it's better.
I just thought it was more aesthetically pleasing. That's why I played it more often.
Yeah,
I preferred sepia over blue-green.
That's fair. My Fallout 4 theory is about the Institute that makes no sense. And I actually had an entire like notebook piece of paper that I had written in almost every line on like both sides, filled with like bullet points. So like, here's what I need to mention. Basically, I think they aren't telling the truth to the player about certain stuff.
Bethesda or the characters in the game?
The characters in the game. And this is sort of a fan theory that I don't know if it's what the developers intended, if it was going to possibly be intended at some point during development, but I think it's a fun way to look at the game when you're playing it.
Okay. I mean, people may not know this, but when the house that we are currently recording in, when our parents years ago bought this place and we were all like going into college together, you and I were roommates, and we painted the room the exact colors of like the blue and yellow from Fallout. Like the trim was all yellow and blue. So I mean, it's not a fan. Anyone who isn't a Fallout fan thinks it's a hideous color combination, but we liked it because it was like our vault. And sort of, you know. And I think in college you need that. You need like an escape. So,
but wow, Miko, just being as loud as possible.
Yeah, he's a real diva. He's dedicated to getting into this episode.
Yeah. So my theory goes that the Institute is lying to you, and everything we see in the game is a test. So, what we know about...
Miko, come here, you loud
Start
liquor.
off what we know about the Institute.
He's like a liquor from Resident Evil. You've never played the remakes, have you?
No, but I think I know what you're talking about.
They're spoopy. Don't worry about it.
I think the... like, what we know is things they claim is like, oh, like, we're humanity redefined and their best chance for the future and all that.
Mm-hmm. Which is debatable.
Yeah, well, this all started with them me questioning, it's like, hold on, they're convinced that synths aren't people.
But they clearly have, like, a consciousness.
But they say their slogan is mankind redefined.
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't they considering changing the definition of mankind?
So saying, like, mankind... So you're saying that their mission statement and their morals don't quite line up.
Yeah, which, let's be honest, there are plenty of companies and stuff that do that now.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's not unrealistic.
But they don't have any reason to lie to the public because they're kind of a secretive organization.
Yeah.
This isn't like Walmart or Disney or anything.
My theory is, and this is kind of built off some other people's theories, that the player, there's a very convincing theory that the player is a synth.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
The main evidence to that is...
Your son is a dick?
Well, you're able to use VATS before you even get the Pip-Boy.
Yeah, that
which
does
is
feel
the
like
Vault Tech augmented targeting system.
So you can slow down...
Virtually assisted targeting system.
You can slow down time and take critical shots or at least line up shots that have a chance.
But then when you go into the terminal system, you find out that Father, your son, has put a thing that's like, oh, build a unique type of synth. He's not saying what it's for, but it's supposed to be able to slow down time and advance its
Where do you
overheat
find this?
it. It's on a terminal in Advanced Systems.
Advanced Systems.
Where they make coursers and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I
was thinking of the place where Dance takes you. I thought that was Advanced Systems.
No.
What is that one?
That one is ArcJet Systems.
ArcJet Systems, got it.
Yeah, I think
it's been a minute since I played that game.
Yeah. But theory is that, and also there are some other lies, like the fact it's like, oh, we don't trust the surface. Yet Madison Lee is a scientist he got from the surface and who joined the Institute. Also, they have a whole bunch of sources that aren't synths that are paid informants for the Institute. Then they they recruit the player.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could be a special...
Well, also, Kellogg.
Kellogg is a horrible person.
Yeah. And Father straight up hates him. Like, he tells you as much. And apparently, you running into him and, like, hunting him down, that was his plan all along. He wanted you to kill Kellogg.
Yeah. Revenge for mom. Or dead, depending on who you play.
Yeah, that's legitimately his whole shtick, is that he wants revenge for killing his parents.
Why wouldn't he just kill him then?
Because he was so hard to kill, and he also...
so he needed, like, a warrior.
And also, it made sense that he would build a courser that's specially made to kill their current killer. Yeah, and since you're making a killbot that's the sole purpose to kill other killbots, might as well go for a double purpose, which is getting your replacement because you have vague disease that's not mentioned.
Yeah.
That's killing him.
So that way he can reconcile with a parent at least.
Yeah, it's sort of his way of, at the end, you start thinking of the beginning.
Yeah. All the things he missed out on.
Yeah, but also serves a two-pronged purpose. He is dealing with the problem that synths are people, or they might be. And so what the player character is an experiment to see if that's true.
To see if he'll act like his dad did?
What he does is he creates a parent, either mother or father, whichever one would have survived. He programs the memories of bombs falling and all that, making exact copy of pre-war mom-dad.
Yeah.
And puts that into the world in one of the most advanced bodies possible. So survival will not be an issue. Then they go out, they're killing everything, and that's why mom and dad are both combat experts, despite only one of them being military. And why they're both experts at building settlements and generators and these weird advanced things that seem to have no bearing on their actual skill set. Start going through, and they start seeing a world that's like, oh yeah, synths are awful. Synths are the worst. Kill them all. And then you meet people who are like, no, synths are people. You hear both sides of the argument. You see the world, and then you get to the Institute, and they tell you their side of it. And so now, it's not just people who are in the Institute and people who are out. It's someone pre-war who would have had an objective point of view. And if they think that synths are people, then they'll side with like, oh yeah, synths are people. And while they're running the Institute, they'll be like, no, I can't put up with this. Synths are totally people. They get rights. And how better to do that than to set up, because people love Father, Sean, the main character. Or not.
The main character's son.
The leader of the Institute. People love him. They look up to him almost unanimously.
Yeah.
And whenever they hate something he did, he's like, why would he do that? He's such a good guy. So people look up to the leader almost religiously.
Yeah.
So imagine if their leader turned out to be a synth in the event that he decided to side with synths. Like, oh yeah, that person who you've valued his input and his way of thinking and love as a person, that's not a person by your book.
So it sort of tricks them into reevaluating that.
Yeah, and if it comes to a term that synths aren't people, and that's the logical thing, then the word never has to get out. And that's humanity redefined.
So sort of like the motto and the oddness of it all.
Yeah, and also the fact that...
So what do you think then happened to the actual like the parent who wasn't shot by Kellogg? Did he shoot both actually, and it's a false memory?
Well, the rest of the people in the cryopods died. They were frozen again, and like their life support was turned off. There's no reason to believe that why yours would be...
Well, he did say the backup, though.
I think that was a fake memory. I think the waking up for that, why would he wake up both parents if he's only going to free one?
Well, do we see... When he wakes up, do you see any of the other pods, like, around you or your wife?
The other pods are not awake.
Oh.
When you're in Kellogg's memories.
Yeah, I guess so that he needed to give you a drive.
Yeah, we know that... Actually, we do know that he did say that as in...
Because it was in Kellogg's memories.
Yeah, and he couldn't alter Kellogg's memories, other than the actual thing that was meant to help him think faster. So, we know he did say that. So, it's possible the backup ended up being used as sort of a template to make a new synth or something. They at least scanned the player character's brain.
Which could be how they ended up giving... Because you can read thoughts, so why wouldn't you be able to also scan them and then implant them in a droid or synth?
And that does... I feel like that's probably why Father doesn't just do that with himself into a new synth. And in a way, he does. He makes Synth Sean. That will grow up in the wake of this new iteration. So rather than make... I feel like what Father's plan was, like, I'm just going to create a synth version of myself that will take over. Problem is, I still have this... Who is... All this stuff. And so he takes all his to-do list on his bucket list, like killing Kellogg, figuring out if synths are people, and he creates a replica that will take care of and nurture this new Sean.
Maybe he wanted a Sean. Maybe he felt he was too cold, and so he wanted to see what he would have. Once he's like, okay, yeah, this Courser super dad or mom seems to be working. Maybe there's a chance that I can have the life I always wanted. It won't be me, but it'll be as close as I can make.
And I feel like the whole moral quandary he proposes to the main thing is that he shows a world that is awful, that thinks synths are people, or at the very least they shouldn't exist, and he's offered a chance to stay in was, for the most part, paradise relative to the outside, but he has
living
to
inside the Apple store.
he has to live with these people enslaved.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the question. I think it's quite possible that he thinks synths are people as put on a show, or it's quite possible he just doesn't have an opinion yet.
If you like this type of like questioning, this is literally like the question that is asked throughout the entire first and arguably maybe even the second season of Westworld. Is Anthony Hopkins' character being like, basically he has an opinion on this, and it's sort of delivered to you piece by piece throughout.
Yeah, and that's sort of the quandary with the whole thing, and that's and there's a lot of evidence that shows that things like you were supposed to be able to get a synth spouse, but that quest was cut. Like a synth replica.
I have a mod whenever I play it that lets you have a backup follower that is the other spouse.
Yeah. They have there's a character called MK it's Game Master 3000, and it's the player character but really old. And then there's also it was connected to MS something like that, like a quest called MS something, like 180 or something like that.
It doesn't matter if you
get the it was some quest, and we have no other ideas of what that quest was.
Oh, so that's what the older version of the player character is connected to.
Yeah, we had...
That would have been a good, like, post-final end game...
Yeah, you meet the original one.
Yeah.
But then...
He's like, yeah, I got out. How you doing?
But then also there's the player... There's the problem of whenever he's like, I'm unarmed and all that, he's not unarmed. If you pickpocket him, you see he's carrying an automatic pistol and ready to defend himself should the player character retaliate. There's, like he says, he doesn't trust the Surface, despite the fact that if you go to the Institute quest, you straight up are recruiting someone from the Surface in part of that quest.
Was that desperation like an excuse because it's to finish?
No, it's just because that person's smart enough, and their whole thing is like, oh yeah, he might be able to help us build our generator and be self-sustaining, and that's like the whole excuse. But really, all they're trying to do is get more self-sufficient and better and more efficient at everything. So it's not really quite the excuse that you'd expect. And there's also, on the paper I had, it was just filled with what the Institute says about what the Railroad says, the Brotherhood notes, and various in-game files, theories, like the fact that Deacon is watching you. Why would he be watching a vault that's been stationary for about 70 years?
Fair. Like, the
only reason he would do that is if someone had just gone in, slapped in a coarser body into the, empty freezer, and teleported out, and that's why he was watching. Only to see the player character come out.
Yeah, do you think it's so deep? I mean, coursers can teleport from within the Institute, but I don't know if they can teleport in or out of underground facilities, so he might have...
They don't. We know they can't because the player character, Kellogg doesn't whenever he's getting the kid.
Good point.
Yeah. So they had to get at least to the surface. And the player character can't teleport in or out of it, but that's more of a gameplay, you're inside.
So is this, in your opinion, something like, oh, this is a cool... way to think of it, but it's probably not true? Or do you think this is this is kind of what they maybe even wanted to do, and remnants of it are still in game? So do you see it as headcanon, or I wish they'd gone this way?
I see it as headcanon, but I see it as if future games were like, oh, totally, that was the case, but we didn't want to say it. Then I would totally be, there's a whole bunch of stuff, like the fact that super mutants are constantly being put to the surface, and the reason super mutants were being made was so they could figure out how to make coursers. Because they wanted something that was resistant to radiation and really strong. And so they started taking the strongest, most radiation immune thing they had.
Followed as an interesting universe.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird hints and stuff. But then also, that's pretty much the theory. It's out of hands, and now I'm just spending my time working on my own, what if I made a Fallout game, what would it be? And that's what I've been writing out.
I think it's a good thing in these bizarre times to have something to pour your... I mean, obviously we have our website, we have the podcast, we have all stuff like that, but we also have other things outside of that, I know that I'm actually working on going back to A Cold Night in Gotham, and I want to trim it up now that I've written more, I've become better at it. I realize, because I wrote that like 2 years ago initially.
Heavens, really?
Yeah, I got the idea for it back in like 2018 or 2019, and it's 2021 at the time of recording. So it basically just sat around for a while until I was like, I want to make something out of this. And now I want to go back in and I want to sort of like, I've learned a lot more about audio production and writing. And so I didn't really get a handle on how I wanted the characters to sound and act until I was pretty much done recording. And at that point, I was so tired, I just didn't want to have to do it again. But yeah, if you haven't checked that out, it has Kevin Conroy in it, which is pretty cool. And it's an all-original story that I wrote and my wife helped me edit and work on.
Yeah.
And now I'm working on something. I don't know if I'm going to do it that route, but I'm working on a couple different things, one of which started off as a Terminator story, but now I'm like, this has enough legs to it. I think it can stand on its own. So it's just going to be sort of like it's going to be like when you watch Upgrade and then you watch Venom, you're like, these could have been like the same story. They have a similar feel. They're just different. And obviously Upgrade is better. So I wrote a story that could totally exist within Terminator, but I kind of want to put my own spin on it in like 2 or 3 places. And that way, if I like it enough, I don't ever have to worry about paying a Paramount or anyone for the rights to let people read it or look at it, or if I ever, someday would make money off of it. Because I think I am slowly working towards the point where that could be something that actually develops financial gain.
Yeah. And I would say your Terminator story, I've heard enough of it that I would actually listen to like a Cold Night in Gotham version of it.
Even if I just do like an audio, like just someone reading it, I might do that.
I know a guy. It's another YouTuber, and he does audiobooks.
Oh, I was about to say, because I also did that Bruce Timm Boba Fett added muscle, where I had to try and sound like Boba Fett. That's not quite how the voice sounded when I did it, but I also did that, and then I got corona, and my voice got worse. So I haven't done that voice in a while.
Sounds like post-acid.
I did a mixture of D. Bradley Baker, who's the animated Clone Wars guy, and Tomorrow Morning. Like, I intentionally listened to both of them and found a middle ground.
D. Bradley Baker is...
he's all the clones.
He's also SpongeBob.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't prove that one way or another.
Because Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps was like, oh yeah, I met with him, we watched a house burn down together. And it's this very weird story, and like they joked that like, oh...
He's also the Grave Mind, which I'm sure you don't know, but from Halo, which is like the Flood acclimating enough to regain some intelligence to it. Oh, God, I love Halo. And Gears of War.
I can't get into the Halo
I think
franchise.
if you played it with me, you'd find it. You'd find some love.
I've played Halo with you, and I've still been like, this feels like just another, like, I can't bring myself into the world. It's like, these are super soldiers. Like, yeah, I've seen those and other stuff.
Yeah, but this also first premiered in 2003. Like, we were still in the middle of our first Spy Kids at that point in life. It was a different world. It was like post 9/11. People were still raw. I was in 3rd grade. There was a lot going on. 4th grade? 3rd or 4th grade.
There are aspects of the world that I like, but overall, I'm not entirely
won over. If you watched the story of Halo Wars, I think you would like it.
Tell you what. Make a deal with you right here on air, and this how we'll end the podcast. I will play through Halo Wars is one game, right? Just
Halo Wars. Well, there's Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2.
I'll play through at least the first Halo Wars, maybe the second. If you watch all 3 of those anime Godzilla movies, and you can get we can get your opinion on that.
Also the new anime Pacific Rim, just series.
Yeah. And I also need to watch the Transformers one, which looks like it's made by the same people.
I watched some of it. No, it's made by actually Rooster Teeth. Animates it. Yeah. They also like Funhouse, Achievement Hunter. Yeah, they're also a advertising and animation studio.
Yeah, because I know that Ruby thing, that's RWBY, that's their thing.
Spelled incorrectly.
Yeah, which apparently was born from Red vs. Blue. Yeah. And they had teamed up with a guy.
That's how they got good at animation, is that they started off with making machinimas, not to be confused with the once brand machinima.
Yeah, that was like that's a weird era. There's a guy who broke down.
It's a real deep cut to like OG YouTube experiences. Yeah. Like, it was a different world. Yeah. It wasn't all clickbaits and streamer drama.
Dude, if you wore a machinima shirt now, that would be so weird.
I mean, a lot of the people I enjoyed the most actually were from like that era,
Yeah.
and they just continued like Funhouse stuff like that. But yeah, I'll consider that. I can't guarantee. I'll probably look up a trailer to see if it's something I'm really into. Because I'm pretty picky when it comes to anime. There's a lot of tropes of anime I enjoy, and a lot of tropes
it's
I
just
don't.
3 movies.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, but I don't want to have to sit through 3 movies if I don't enjoy the first one.
How about this? I'll play through the first chapter or whatever of Halo Wars, and you can watch just the first movie, and we'll see where we go from there.
Honestly, I would almost have you just watch the cinematics of Halo Wars and then hop into Halo Wars 2, because Halo Wars 2 is the most beautiful Halo game I've ever seen.
All right, I'll let you tailor that, and we can just start with the first Godzilla.
Okay, well, you can't see it, but we're sort of shaking hands.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to make a sound effect. That's just, hands don't make a ton of sound. Anyway, this is the Poppycock Podcast. We don't have any fun extra... do you have a fun piece of trivia to end with? I like to do trivia in this, so people walk away learning something.
Yeah, there's a type of fish that is bioluminescent and shoots out the bioluminescence, like, thing inside of it out as a defense thing that kind of freaks other creatures out because it's normally a deep-sea creature. And so it looks like almost a Dragon Ball attack.
That's interesting. Do you know what it's called?
Not on me right
Well,
now.
Google it. We got you halfway there. Look up glowy fish spits a lot. Actually, maybe don't look that up.
Just look up crazy bioluminescent fish and have fun.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening.